you got to go through the messy middle in a journey of evolution. And sometimes that messy middle is really short, sometimes it's really long. And I would say that if you find yourself in that situation, um, don't be afraid of it. It's here to help you transform.
Hello, hello, everyone. I'm super excited today to have Britta Buchanan with me on I think this is episode 12 of the Living Magick Occult-Cast. So grateful to have you. Hello, Britta.
Hi there, Fola. Thank you for having me. Great to be here.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, really, I guess, synchronistic how we met online. But I did want to read a bit about your bio here and just give people an idea of where you're coming from, where you're headed to, and I think that'll
Yeah.
be inspiring. So, Britta is a former elementary school teacher turned solopreneur who operates the Aligned and Undefined. I just love that. That's such a. She
Thank you.
supports spiritually conscious individuals reclaim their creative expression through human design, the Akashic Records, and collaborative soulful web copywriting. So, welcome. And there'll be many questions for you
Oh,
around what
thank you.
led to
Thanks, Fola.
you, taking the leap, I guess, from teacher to solopreneur. Yeah.
That is a lengthy story, so I will do my best to be concise. But yeah, of course, I'm happy to share the share. I have been in educate. Well, I was in education for most of my 20s. I did not go to undergrad for education. However, I taught English in Thailand after I graduated from college, and then I kind of fell into different things. When I got back from Thailand, I started teaching English online to students in Thailand, and then I was a teacher's assistant. I was a substitute teacher, and I eventually went and got my master's of education and taught as a public school teacher for 2 years. And I always have identified as being a teacher. I've always loved teaching, even when I was really little. I remember like dreaming about being a teacher.
Mm.
And yet, when I was actually doing it, I found it to be really exhausting and really not in alignment with myself, who I really truly am at my core. And around the time I was in graduate school, I came into human design, which is a system and a tool that we'll be able to talk a little bit more about today on this recording. And I learned in human design that I'm a reflector. And this is the rarest human design type. Human design is based off of a bunch of different things, a bunch of different systems, but one of them is the chakra system. And the idea in human design is that we have these centers, kind of like the chakras, and you either have your centers defined or undefined. And depending on whether you have your centers defined or undefined, that means it's the centers are where you have your energy. So if you have a center defined, you have consistent energy. And if you have a center undefined, you have inconsistent energy in that center. Well, reflectors are completely undefined. Every single center in our human design chart is undefined. And that makes me a very inconsistent being. Means that I pick up on my environment. I'm very influenced by the people around me, by the quality of the overall environment. And so I was really struggling in the classroom. I was really struggling with classroom management. I was really struggling with my energy. My energy would fluctuate from day to day. And I just was so tired. And teaching is a huge job. I mean, it's like a normal job on steroids because you're like
Yeah,
teaching
basically.
every day, and then you're lesson planning, you're writing up newsletters, your grading, your planning. I think I already said that, but there's more planning. There's so much. And so I was so exhausted. And when I came to human design in 2020, late 19, early 2020, I originally dismissed it because I didn't believe in any of, like, now, I'm into all this magical stuff now, but at the time I didn't. Um, and human design has this crazy origin story where the founder, Ra who like basically channeled all of this information on LSD and Ibiza. And I was like, that's bullcrap. I don't believe any of that. And so I kind of put it aside, even though I resonated with it. About a year later, I was intuitively drawn back to it and kind of went down the rabbit hole. And as I got into my first year of teaching, I was getting also into human design, and I was starting to understand why I was struggling in the classroom. But I just got my master's degree, so I was like, well, I have to put this to use. Like, I don't want to, you spend all this money. I mean, I'm in the US, and so we do pay for our education, for higher education in the US. I know not all, like, there's different rules in different countries, but I was paying for this master's degree. It's like I don't just want to like put it to waste. So I finished with my first year of teaching. Went into my second year in a different grade, so I was teaching a younger grade now. Was still struggling, and finally, I kind of came to this realization as I was going further into human design. I took a human design mastermind where I became certified as a reader and just was learning it at a deeper level. And then my mentor, who I did my mastermind with, she asked me to join her team as the Reflector coach. And so I was just kind of going deeper into this world and was trying to decide, like, okay, like, I'm really miserable teaching, and I didn't think I was I'm not very good at it. Like, there's parts of it that I am good at, but the overall classroom management, and it made sense as a reflector, because as a reflector, part of my job in my aura type is to amplify the health of the community. And so if you're putting me in front of a class of students, I'm amplifying their energy. And it made sense why I was struggling to manage it, because I'm not designed to manage their energy. I'm designed to amplify it. And so eventually it kind of came to me during that second year of teaching, when I was going deeper into the human design work, that I had to leave. I was like, you know what? I wanted to get my money's worth for my master's degree, but there was this knowing that, I had that experience. Yes, I have the loans. That's fine. They'll get paid off somehow. I need to really focus on me and what's best for me, and what's best for me is to leave. And so I told my admin of the school I worked at in December that I was leaving, and said I'd finish off the school year. And I left at the end of the school year, this was in 2023. So June 2023, I finished up. And I had this human design stuff. I also had gotten to the Akashic records in that last year as well. I was like, well, I might as well put them together and do something with it. And so spent a year and a half. I've been on a wild journey of trying to figure this entrepreneurship shit stuff out, and here I am.
The big leap of faith into the unknown, I guess. Hey, that's awesome.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and like you're saying, it's almost harder when you've had so much of like a time, money, energy investment, such as education, into your life, into a career, to like kind of make a shift, even though your whole body is telling you like this is killing you.
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing?
And I think what I learned, or one of the things I realized, is that there are so many ways that I can be a teacher. I don't have to be in front of a classroom. I can be teaching in this work, teaching people about spirituality, human design, the Akashic records. It's kind of evolved into supporting people with their creativity, and so teaching people about that. And there's also so many things that I've taken from my master's program as well, and from teaching. There's so many transferable skills
Mm-hmm.
from teaching into everything else. Like, people don't realize how much teachers do and how many
Yeah.
skills it takes to be a teacher. And really taken a lot of that into the entrepreneurial world as well.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. Ooh, and I would love to hear more a bit about like the human design piece, but you said something around how like you came to human design and then you're kind of just like brushing it off, and then there was a time it happened again. Like you found yourself there again. Like was there kind of like an aha moment or something that kind of clicked in your consciousness, your awareness that led you to be like, "Oh, actually, yeah. I can do this."
I had been on a huge personal development journey in 2020. That was the year of lockdown, and um, there wasn't a whole lot for me to do at home besides learn about myself. And so I was really into the Enneagram for a little bit. I was doing therapy at that time, and it was early in 2021 when I just like I've always been very intuitive, even though I was like I didn't believe in channeling and I didn't believe in like the spiritual stuff. There's always been a part of me that's like very I've just like known things and
Mm-hmm.
like just this intuitive knowing of certain things and future, especially with like things in my life just kind of being like, yeah, that's probably going to happen, like it's fine, like, and just having this very deep sense of intuition even though I didn't consider myself spiritual. And so it was just that it was in early 2021. It must have been January or February. I was supposed to be doing something for grad school because I was still in grad school at that time, and I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna see what I can see about this human design stuff. And I did. And it took me probably about 6 months where, I was getting more into it. I was like finding resources to learn from, listening to podcasts, learning more about my energy type. But the time when it really clicked was when I moved, because at the time I was living in Washington, D.C. And I moved out of DC to Northern Virginia, which is right next door, um, in late July, early August of 2021. And I moved to Virginia for my teaching job. And I immediately noticed a difference. I was like, I feel so different here. I feel better here. I like the feeling of this location better than the old place where I was living. And a big part of the reflector aura in human design is the importance of environment, and that it's very important for reflectors to be in environments that feel good for them. And so that was really like, it was in January where I was like intuitively guided. But the clincher for me was when I noticed the shift in my own being in
Mm-hmm.
the new environment, where I was like, I've moved, I'm in a new place, I feel completely different. This is part of my human design. Okay, I think I believe this now. Whereas before I was kind of, in human design we talk about the experiment. It's like the experiment, kind of see how it is for us. And so I had been experimenting for about 6 months, but I still wasn't sold on it
Mm-hmm.
until I moved and noticed how different I felt.
Yeah, cool. Okay. I like that word even experimenting because to me that's like magic. It's like a lot of these like kind of older occultists, especially with like Crowley, they would talk about magic kind of being like a scientific experiment. Like it's like scientific research. You're figuring out you do A, do you get the result of B or not? Like, and that's ultimately what we're doing in life is
Yeah,
seeing what works, what doesn't work for us specifically, like individually, and hopefully honoring that, listening to it, which
yeah,
it seems like you've been doing.
I'm doing my best. But
Mm-hmm.
absolutely, that like science, or pardon me, human design is like called the science of differentiation. And so it's all about how we are unique individual humans. And yes, if I put your birth date and time in, and you pull up your chart, I can tell you what you are. But human design says, okay, well, does that resonate with you? Like, go out and experiment, and like, don't just take the chart's word for it. Go out and find out for yourself if this resonates with you.
Yeah, yeah. Cool. Ooh, well, yeah. Let's talk a bit about the human design. That's right. You know, well, first, I guess, a little disclosure, people. We tried to do this recording last week, and Zoom was whatever, went to hell, I guess. Not just
We're
for
in.
us, but for like the whole globe. But I think that led to us getting a bit of clarity on like almost experimenting. Okay, what are we going to talk about? And I feel like today, yeah, human design seems to be it's showing up a lot, and I think people are curious about it, and they have no idea what it is, or not sure how to kind of go about finding the information. So, do you mind just sharing with us a bit about what is human design
Yeah.
then? Yeah, like how, what, why?
So it is the science differentiation. It's your blueprint of kind of how you are designed to move through the world. It was channeled into the world by this guy who called himself Rahu Rahu in 1987. And it's a combination of a bunch of different ancient systems that have kind of come together to form this this chart, this body graph that shows you how you're designed to move through the world. So there's, we have the Chinese I Ching that it's kind of pulled from. There's elements of the chakra system that are pulled from it. There's the Kabbalah tree of life. There's Western astrology. Um, I might be missing something. I'm not sure, but there's just all these different, it's all these different schools of thought that are ancient that are pulled together into this human design chart. So it's a relatively new system that came into the world 1987. That's 30 some years ago. And yet the synthesis of the information that it comes from is quite ancient. And there's so much that goes into human design. If you pulled up a chart, you would see a lot of things. And if you're brand new to it, you would probably be really overwhelmed. And I would be a little confused if you weren't overwhelmed because there's a lot that you see. But what we usually start with when we're getting into this is strategy and authority. And that's how you're designed to make your decisions. And the strategy and authority is based on your aura type. And there are 5 different aura types. Some people say 4, but I was taught 5, and I think that makes most sense. And all the aura types have a specific role to play. And so at first we have the manifestor. The manifestor, these are our true initiators. Most of us have been conditioned to initiate. We are in this society that tells us to go after what we want and to make it happen. But we are not all actually designed that way. So most of us who have been conditioned that way are going about it wrong, to be quite frank. The manifestors are the true initiators. They're here and they're designed to initiate things into being. So they get an idea, they get a insight, and they go out and initiate. They start something. The thing is, they're not designed to finish it. And so that's where kind of some of the other types come in to help them finish off what they started. We have the generators, and the generators are designed to build. They're the builders of the world. And of course, that could mean anything. That could be building a house, or that could be building a business. They are here to respond to life, to respond to what lights them up. And by responding, they get into situations where they're able to build things up and support the manifestor with the thing that they initiated, for instance. We have the manifesting generators. And in some like traditional human design, a lot of times they put the manifesting generator to the generators together and say they're one type. I was taught differently, and I think that makes sense. The manifesting generators are kind of a hybrid type where they're mostly generator. So they still have that response that they're responding to what lights them up. But then they have that manifestor energy as well. So it's really important that the manifesting generator informs of what's going on, what they're doing too. They respond and inform. And manifesting generators are kind of all over the place. They're like they're very multifaceted. They have lots of different interests, and a lot of times manifesting generators can feel like they're too much or that they have too many things going on. That's how they're designed to be, and that's what makes them super exciting and super unique and super fun. Then we have the projectors, and the projectors are the newest type that came in 1781 with the discovery of Uranus. And they are our guides. They are here to basically, we live in a world that's pretty messed up. There's a lot of scary things going on out there. There's a lot of uncertainty. And the projectors are the guides. They're here to guide us into a better world, a better space. They're here to point out what's not working. They're here to, just kind of guide us, the rest of us, back on track when we're kind of going haywire. Projectors they're here to be invited in. So they're not meant to initiate, they're not meant to respond, they're here to get the invitation. It's very important for projectors to be invited in, to fully be into any group, to be fully seen and appreciated. And then we have the reflectors, and I'm a reflector. And the reflectors are kind of the mirror. That's the word that they use in human design. I amplify the energy of my environment. And I'm basically here to kind of be the mirror of what's not working and what's working. If I'm in an environment that's really healthy, I'm going to be thriving. And if I'm in an environment that's really unhealthy, I'm going to really struggle. And so the reflector is really, really powerful in that we are kind of, if a reflector's not well, the environment's not well. And if the reflector is well, the environment's well. So it's a very potent a mirror that mirror capability that we have. And all the types are powerful in their own way, of course. There's so much benefit in being able to initiate with the manifestor. So powerful. As someone who doesn't have, that building energy of the generators, it's amazing to watch generators and manifesting generators in action. You guys have so much that you are able to bring when you're lit up. And of course, the projectors are just amazing guides. And so, yeah, those are the 5 types in a nutshell.
Cool. Okay, thanks. Oh yeah, that sparked some questions for me. I believe I'm a manifestor generator. Personally,
Generator.
manifesting generator, yeah, that one. So hearing your kind of explanation about it, it's like, oh yeah, okay, that makes sense. All over the place. But you mentioned the projectors needing an invitation. Can you talk a bit about that? How do they, and maybe I'll just preface that by saying anyone can go online. There's websites and resources to find out what type of human design, whatever you are. But I guess from there, say with the projector, the invitation to be a part of something, how do they kind of touch on that so that those people listening, maybe if they're feeling a separation, or I'm not sure if that shows up as not belonging, how would a projector ask for the invitation or seek that out? Yeah, just wondering.
That's a great question. And that's something that, projectors will get really tripped out about. They're like, what do you mean I'm supposed to wait for an invitation? What do I do in the meantime? And it's really important for projectors, if you're listening to this and you are a projector or you know a projector, that it's not about just sitting there twiddling your thumbs. And this is the same for all types, because generators and manifesting generators, they also have to they have to wait for something to respond to. So it's not necessarily an invitation, but there's something they need to respond to. And my strategy as a reflector is to wait a lunar cycle, which is not practical for like small things, but for big decisions, I usually tend to wait a lunar cycle or at least a couple of, I'm a slow being. And it's really important for projectors specifically, since you asked, to understand that it's not about doing nothing while they're waiting. There's this energy of being able to put their energy into the things that they enjoy. So that doesn't mean that they can't be putting themselves out there. Maybe there's a projector is listening to this who's like, well, I want to, build my own business. How do I do that if I'm supposed to wait for an invitation? That doesn't mean you can't be building your business. You can be, putting together the, pieces of your business. You can start putting out, if you're doing it online, you can start putting out content, you start advertising and all of that. And it's really when you're doing what you love that people are going to start to recognize you. And that's when you're going to start to see the invitations coming in. And there's also the element of being able to discern what an invitation is, because there are some times where the projector will need that, verbal invitation. But what other types of invitations are there? Is somebody, you make eye contact with someone and you have like a really good exchange eye contact wise. Maybe that's enough of an invitation for you to, go out there. And I think it does require some of that experimenting, because it's going to also be different for every projector. I have a projector friend that I connected with a couple months ago, and I actually introduced him to human design, and he's been kind of playing with the experiment. And he's told me, he's like, the more that I wait for the invitation, the more that I actually feel like people are starting to invite me in. And he said that there's an ease to the experience than before, when he was like pushing to get himself out there. And every type has a signature. Like when they're in alignment, they're going to feel a certain way, and when they're not in alignment, they're going to feel another way. So the projector, if they're not in alignment, they're going to be bitter, because they're going to be like, no one's seeing me, no one's understanding the brilliance that I have to give. But the projector in alignment is going to feel success, because they're not trying so hard to put themselves out there. They're just doing their thing, doing what they love, and then the invitations come and they feel that success, which is the sign to them that they're in alignment.
Okay. Yeah, okay, that makes sense. I really like what you said about like just the eye gaze. Like it's not like you're gonna get an envelope in the mail that says like you're cordially invited to XYZ, It may look completely different, especially in this day and age with technology and so forth. So kind of like almost
Absolutely.
opens up the realm of possibility.
There's so much to consider. I mean, you're right. It could be that kind of like, who gives
It could
portable
be.
invitations like that?
Yeah.
Like it could be, but it's like, just thinking about the different ways. Like, or even if you're like in a conversation with someone and someone seems interested. Like was I was invited a few months ago to speak about human design in this guy's membership, um, like business membership, when I met him on a networking call. And I found out later that he was a projector. So like, but he invited me to his membership. But it's like we were on a networking call and we were having a great conversation. Like there was definitely engagement from both of us. And so like he didn't wait around to wait for me to invite myself in. He invited me in. But there was some level of like, okay, this girl is already invested in this conversation with me. So it's like, what invitation is going to look different depending on the situation. And like I said, there's that invitation. There's that invitation, projectors, to really experiment with what that feels like for you.
Yeah. Okay. 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 Sweet. Yeah, I think that gives a good like overlay about the projector. So with like the reflector, then you mentioned the environment. If the environment's great, then they're doing great. I guess I wonder How does one in the reflector lens approach when an environment's not like the ideal? Like, is that something you've had to, go to the people and be like, yo, like this just isn't working? And I know because because I'm a reflector, like life is, just seems like chaotic or whatever. Or how would you recommend that?
I think it, like I said, it really is the experiment, and I think it's going to
Mm-hmm.
be different for every reflector. And there's also all of other elements of the chart. I have found that there's a feeling of stuckness. Just recently, in December, I moved from Virginia, where I had been living, and I moved to Minnesota, which is my home state. And I immediately again noticed a shift where I felt more energy, more inspiration, just like things started to feel like they were moving a little bit more smoothly for me. And I had been really stuck in Virginia. Like I was struggling to make progress with my business, and there was just, I lacked inspiration. And it wasn't until someone else pointed it out to me. I didn't even like know. I was like, oh, like, okay, like, yeah, you're right. I am stuck here. Where it became clear to me that it was time to move on. And I had known that it was time to move on for a while, but I just like didn't know how. And so that's another important thing about reflectors is that we need sometimes, we're completely undefined, so we need other people's energy to help us to move our energy. And so sometimes
Hmm.
those ideas for like what comes next do come from other people. Um, but I think there really is, I think, for any reflector who's listening to this, or if you know a reflector, just how do they see him? Like how is the reflector doing? Like when you really talk to them, do they feel like, does it seem like they're thriving? Does it seem like they're happy? Does it seem like they're in a good place? Because if they're not, that may very well be the environment. It
Hmm.
may not be the whole environment. It might be the quality of the people that they're spending time with in the environment. But if a reflector seems really off or really down, or like things aren't really moving for them, there's a question of like, who are you spending time with? Where are you? And what can
Mm-hmm.
you do to maybe shift that?
Okay. Yeah. Well, that has leaves me with a lot of questions. Just like witnessing people in my own life, and like, obviously without actually checking what their human design is, I wonder, oh, perhaps this is what's happening here, and like, how could I check in on that and support or have conversations? Because especially with the reflector one, I can sense like that place of being in a place of empowerment versus victimhood, right? Of like, oh, my environment's like complete shit. So, some people just wouldn't do anything. Or you can like actively make a choice to move like you did. It might not always be easy,
Yeah.
but it'll be worth it. Um, yeah. Okay. Okay. What about the other ones though? I'm curious. Like, what's your manifester? Wait, manifestor, and then the manifesting generator and generator. Those three. Like, what about those three? Like, how do they? I don't know what I want to ask. There's something there though. Whatever that is, we just.
Yeah. So I think I'll talk about the so there's, like I said, there was the signature and the not self theme for each, and I touched on them for the projector. So the projector, when they're in alignment, is going to feel success. When they're not in alignment, they're going to feel bitter. The
Okay.
reflector, when they're in alignment, is going to feel surprise and delight,
Ooh.
and it's going to feel disappointment when they're not in alignment. And I just want to clarify, like, everybody feels these feelings from time to time. Like you can be a generator and feel disappointed. Like it's not like these are the
Mm-hmm.
only feelings you have. But overall, if you are a generator, or pardon me, if you're like a reflector and you're feeling disappointed all the time, that's probably a sign that you're out of alignment. If you're a projector and you're feeling bitter all the time, that's probably a sign that you're not in alignment. The manifester is going to feel peace when they're in alignment. They're going to feel anger when they're out of alignment. And it's really important for the manifestor that they do learn to initiate, because a lot of times, we grew up in a society where we go to school and we're told what to do from the moment we get up to the moment we go to bed. And I was a teacher. Like um, I saw this in my classroom, and it was so funny because there was, well, it's not funny, but it was just very interesting for me where I didn't have my students' exact birth times, because that's, I had their birthdays, but I didn't have their exact birth times.
Imagine
But
asking for that.
and I wasn't going to do that. But so I would put them in just to kind of, see kind of what the chart was like. And one of the boys who, like, everybody thought he was so lazy. He was super smart, but super lazy. He was a manifester. And I was like, oh, no wonder he's lazy, because he's being told every single day what to do. And he doesn't want to do any of it. And he doesn't have any opportunity in the day to initiate his own desires. So it's very important to give manifestors space to initiate, which is, especially if you have a manifestor child, that could be kind of take some, rewiring of your own mind, because we are conditioned as humans to, like, we tell the kids what to do. The kids don't tell us what to do, right? So, but the manifestor, when they are in alignment, when they are able to initiate as it feels aligned for them, they're going to feel that peace. The generator, when they're out of alignment, is going to feel frustration. So if you're a generator and you feel a lot of frustration in your life, probably out of alignment. However, the generator who is in alignment feels satisfaction. So when the generator, it's very important, because the generator, they're the builders. They have the energy. If we're looking at the centers in human design, they have a defined sacral, which means they have consistent life force energy. They have the energy to get things done. But it's really important that the generator does the things that light them up. That's like, the generator has a sacral yes or the sacral no. So either they're going to feel a yes, I want to do this, or a no, I don't. But a lot of times, we're conditioned to take care of other people, to do our job, to show up. A lot of times generators will end up doing things that don't light them up because they feel they have to. But that's not an alignment for them. And they're going to fall into a lot of frustration. So the thing for the generator to get into is to practice, what lights me up. Am I doing what lights me up in my job right now? Yes, I have the energy for this, but does it actually light me up? Because the more that the generator does the things that light them up, the more they're going to have the natural energy to continue to go out there and do the things they actually want to do. And then the manifesting generator has that satisfaction when they're in alignment, but also that peace. Kind of, that manifestor generator, both of them. And they will feel anger and frustration when they're not in alignment. So, and it's really,
I don't know what that is.
It's really important for manifesting generators to be gracious with themselves, because they do have a lot of different interests, and they will be really into something for a little bit, and then they'll be like, oh, I'm done with that, move on. And society, a lot of times society has conditioned all of us to, like, be consistent, do the things that show up, don't be flaky. And it's okay for the manifesting generator to, like, have 1,000 different interests and to maybe lose interest. They lose interest in something because, they've done it for a while and now they don't want to do it anymore. That's okay. It's okay to be that multi-passionate human being.
Permission granted. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Because, and what I'm hearing from what you're saying, Britta, is like a lot of our societal programming, the structures, our like institutionalized systems, they operate almost like counter to human design, like about our natural way of being. And it's not anyone's fault. I think it's just we've evolved Like I like how you said even that one, like the what was it, the projectors didn't even come in until a particular planet, I think, or whatever that was, right? It's like we are constantly evolving, and so how can we now approach these systems? How can the school system change? How can we do work differently? Or like whatever that looks like in the future of employment so that it aligns with who we actually are. Because so many people, yeah, are going through life just completely unhappy. To me, that's like the opposite of the living magic. It's like living
Yeah.
unconsciously, like whatever, you know? Um, like how could that change? I like how you were able to like just consider those options for those kids in the classroom. Not that you're gonna go start preaching to them, oh well, hey
No.
buddy, you're a manifestor, like, you know, goes to parents and is like, Mom. um, but like how can that help us to approach each other with more like grace and more space? So yeah, there's something about just the knowledge and awareness there that I think can be really beneficial.
Absolutely. And there's so much more to the chart. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
the aura types are really just the beginning. And for some people that's enough. I mean, you are gonna go as deep into human design as it feels aligned for you. And I'm not here to tell you to do anything that you don't want to do. But there's so much more to it, and there's so much more nuance if you go even deeper. And it's such a permission slip. It's like, oh, this is why I am the way I am. This is why I have these experiences. For me as a reflector, understanding the mirror aspect before human design in my, early to mid 20s, I would a lot of times notice that people would be uncomfortable around me. And like I would have just met them and they would be nervous around me. And I'd be like, I don't understand what's going on. Like, I just met you. I haven't even talked to you. But when I learned about my aura type, it made sense because they were seeing something in me about themselves that they didn't like. And they probably weren't conscious of it because, but it's like that kind of stuff where it's like, I
Mm-hmm.
don't understand why this is happening to me. Oh, well, it makes sense. I'm the mirror in human design. I'm not just a mirror, but that's part of my aura type. And if I'm showing something to someone that they don't like, I'm not trying to do it. It just happens.
Yeah.
It's no wonder they're uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've met those people, like, you know, I'm just thinking it's like, and I have a lot of gratitude for them. I usually just say like they're like the channeler, like of like the deepest parts of myself. You know, it's like if everyone's met someone like that where it's like they just say things or just like mirror something back, like without like non-verbally, and it like hits a chord. And yeah, I find it fascinating because you know, like you're saying too, like a lot of, I guess when we don't embrace these parts of ourselves, it can be sometimes very lonely, or we can like beat ourselves up around. For me, the big thing is why can't you just pick one thing and stick with that one passion instead of like, I was literally just telling a friend this morning, "Oh, look at the flashy thing like over there. Like I want to go and explore that now." And you know, we can be hard on ourselves instead of just truly living life the way we feel called to. Hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. And human design talks about this new paradigm that we're entering, and human design isn't the only system that talks about this. There's a lot of systems, ancient prophecies about this particular period that we're in, as that we're living through right now, being called the Great Change. And human design talks about 2027 as being the year that we moved from this very tribal cycle that we're in right now, called the era of the cross. It's the cross of planning era. So it's all about, um, tribal systems and being together in a tribe. And we're moving into this new era called the cross of the sleeping phoenix, which is all individual energy.
Hmm.
And so we're seeing this happen right now in our world where a lot of systems are breaking down or they're shifting or they're changing. And a lot of people who aren't in this world of, spirituality, they're people who are really scared. because things are changing and they don't know what's going to happen. And,
Mm-hmm.
there's kind of this understanding, at least within me, I've been in this work for long enough now that, like, yes, things are falling apart and it is scary. However, things need to fall apart for them to come back and to be reborn. And that's kind of, this new
Phoenix.
era of the sleeping phoenix. Like, that's the whole idea of the phoenix. You got
Mm-hmm.
to burn yourself to the ground to be reborn. And
Mm-hmm.
so it's like, yes, we can do things we can take the actions that feel aligned for us to, in whatever way, feel supportive to us to navigate this situation, this world we're living in. And yet at the same time, like, the way I see it, there's something bigger going on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and I often tell people listening, I'm like, if you're here, you're probably intuitive and like connected. And most likely, too, those people, those of you listening, are most likely that energy of the phoenix already. Because I think that for many, I'm noticing it in my own life, I'm noticing it in other people that I have seen go through sort of like a rebirth, like a dying. And now they're coming to a place of like rebirthing. It's like we're kind of like on this early track, you know? Like think of all the times you've come across someone like in a healing arts or position of that kind of like wellness, and they're going through the experience before the like whole of society goes through, because there needs to be like a foundation sort of place there. So I guess what I'm saying with that is, if you're feeling like your life is kind of falling apart or things are burning up and you just don't know what else to do, it's like maybe now's the time to tap into modalities such as human design, such as the Akashic records, like recognizing that there's like parts that you can really learn about yourself, as it's kind of like it's like a duty almost to the rest of humanity who's eventually going to go through it. So yeah, whatever your thoughts might be on that, Britta.
Absolutely. I mean, I definitely resonate with that life falling apart thing. I feel like a lot of things have a lot of, a lot of things have fallen away from me in the last year. And it's been very scary and very uncertain at times. Still, sometimes still is. But, surrendering to that deeper sense of trust that, like, this is, this needs to happen for the new life to kind of unfold, for my new life to kind of unfold. Um, and I think there are more and more people in the last few years who have been, waking up, if you will, and becoming aware of this more spiritual realm. And I do think there is, like, as the world goes through its rebirthing process, it's starting to enter that. Um, Probably already in the midst of it, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
People are scared and people are
Mm-hmm.
uncertain, and I think more of these people who identify as light workers, if you will, whatever term resonates, it's like, we're needed.
Mm-hmm.
We need to go through our process first so that we can be of support to the world as it goes through its process.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I like how you worded that. It's not a falling apart, like a falling away, because it is really, it's not, it's the things that like aren't really us. It's like, okay, bye bye.
Yeah. And I think it's like the chrysalis phase of, the caterpillar to butterfly journey. It's like
Mm-hmm.
the the caterpillar turns to goop inside that chrysalis. It is like there's nothing left of the caterpillar. And for it to become the butterfly. And it's an essential part of the process for that to happen. Otherwise, there would never be a butterfly. And I think there's a lot of people in this time, and I've been in contact with a lot of people who have kind of been in that phase for a while, including
Mm-hmm.
myself. If it's like being in that chrysalis and like not knowing what's happening, not knowing what's coming next, being like, overcoming the fear and the trepidation of what am I doing with my life? None of it makes
Yeah.
sense right now. And just sinking into that trust that, to be able to become the butterfly,
Mm-hmm.
there has to be a chrysalis portion where what isn't working falls away.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh,
And
imagine if it's
transmutes transmutes into
yeah.
something completely different.
Yeah. Well, and yeah, and I'm thinking to like I'm not sure if they do this in states or the schools in the states, but here in Canada they'll like bring in the caterpillar like who's about to go, right? You know, like they'll
We
let the
did
kids
that
have.
when I taught in my last year of teaching. I taught second grade, so that's 7 and 8 year olds in the U.S. And we had at the end of the year we had a caterpillar unit, caterpillar to
Oh,
butterfly. And
cool.
they brought in the caterpillars, and we got to watch them go from the caterpillar to the chrysalis to the butterfly, and then we got to release them out to the wild. And it's a whole like yeah, we do that. I mean, I don't know if they do that everywhere because schools in the US are
Mm.
very different depending on the state, but it's definitely an experience that young children get to have at school.
Yeah, like to see that, you know, like how much could we say, like, guess what happens inside the cocoon? Like everything goes to shit. You know, like, but
It's
this
brutal.
is sometimes how life is, you know, and like,
Yeah.
so never give up. Never give up.
Yeah.
Just keep holding the faith on what's possible. So, okay. And I'm being aware of the time. So I can't believe this much time has passed already. I'm like, what? I feel like there's so many more things I want to know. But if anyone wanted to reach out to you and like, you know, have their human design like assessment or their reading done or kind of dive deeper into some of the work that you do, what is it that they could do to reach out to you and what do you
Yeah.
offer?
I offer combined human design Akashic record sessions. So we didn't really get into the Akashic records this time around. So maybe there'll be a second time. We'll see.
Hmm.
Um, Akashic records are really cool too. So I offer combined human design Akashic record sessions, various times. So there's like an hour session, hour and a half session, and a 2 hour session where we go into the human design and then we do the Akashic records. I also do web copy for mostly entrepreneurs in the personal development space. I'm sorry, based off of human design. So I use your human design to write really soulful, authentic web copy for you. If you're, looking to start your own business or you have a business in this space and you either don't have a website or you want your website copy just like completely redone, I use human design to really get to the heart of who you are, and that's really fun. My whole brand is based around helping people to revitalize their creative expression. So, where are you not being seen in your creativity? Where do you feel a little bit uncertain about your own creative genius? And so the human design, the Akashic record sessions can really help you with that.
Hmm.
Um, you can find me at my website, www.alignedundefined.com. I also am on Instagram at Aligned and Undefined, and I'm on LinkedIn as well. If you want to find me, you can just type in my name, Britta Buchanan. I also have a 30-minute discovery call. So if you are curious and you want to learn more about what I offer, if you're interested in the web copy, and you want to hop on a call, you can book one of those with me and we can talk and chat a little bit more before we decide to work together.
Cool. And yeah, I'm going to share all those links. They'll be in the description beneath this video. So if you want to reach out to Britta and find out more, like, yeah, this is just so eye-opening to me. Like, I feel like I knew nothing about human design until we've connected. And it's just like, whoa. So there's a lot here, a lot of possibility. I can see how it would tie into all the other areas, like you're saying, for entrepreneurs or creatives or however one might identify themselves. So thank you, Britta. Like we usually end the sessions with just asking if there's any final words or insights, inspiration that you would like to share with the audience.
Ooh, any final words or insights? I think, what's coming back to me is that the whole image of the the butterfly's journey. Like you got to go through the messy middle in a journey of evolution, and sometimes that messy middle is really short, sometimes it's really long. And I would say that if you find yourself in that situation, don't be afraid of it. It's here to help you transform.
Be the caterpillar and the butterfly. Thank you, Britta. Yeah, and thank you everyone for tuning in. Check out Britta's info, and yeah, we'll see you guys in another video. Take care.